worry, it'll all show up on the dyno. We'll know which way to go, right? But hush for now. Hi folks, this is David Vizard and you're watching PowerTec 10. Almost forgot where I was then, but hey, on with the show. In this episode 160, I'm going to do something that I promised to do in episode 159, and that is make a guess at who I thought was going to be the best power producer in Eric Weingartner's cam shootout, which by the way starts in 3 days time. It's the 18th as I record this, and it starts on the 21st, so home in on that channel. That's that's WeingartnerRacing.com, and get the results as they come in. Now, anyway, on with my guesswork. One of the things I found when Eric posted all the cam cards to us, everybody that entered got them, and the one thing I noticed is that there is a group of cams that are all very close together. So what this means is there's a whole bunch of us that are pretty close, or a whole bunch of us that have made a mistake, and we're going to find out soon. So let me just give you some percentages here, and I'm not going to put any scales on the graph so that it doesn't spoil Eric's announcement of who's got what on their cam card. But here's a graph of the lobe center lines, and you can see how the distribution goes between the tightest to the widest. Well, here we are with my chart. It's been smoothed out some, but hey, that's the way it goes. Now, everything to the left of the graph, as arrowed, is tighter. Everything to the right of the graph, as arrowed, is wider. Now, the difference between one end and the other is about 10 degrees odd. So you can see that people's thoughts on this vary quite widely. Now, let's look at some vaguely apparent statistics here. First, where it's circled, there is a predominance of entries with choices in that area. Me included. I'm right in the middle of that highlighted zone. Now I'm going to make a point here. I want you to consider this. These gentlemen here are considered by some, and sometimes by many, to be cam experts. And yet there is nearly 10 degrees difference in the lobe centerline angle of these cams. They can't all be right. So, the point I want to make here is that, and I'm not getting at anyone in particular, that when it comes to valve event timing, the cam industry is in a mess. If you're buying a cam from any one of these gentlemen here, you have about, and this is a subjective guess rather than objective, you've got about a 1 in 4 chance of having a cam that is optimal or near optimal. 1 in 4. And you're talking to people here who are, again, it sounds like I'm getting at everybody, but there again, I'm known for saying this is how it is. So this is how it is. Even the people who are considered to be cam experts can get it wrong. So, question, do you want to buy a cam from somebody who is guessing what the valve events need to be, or would you rather buy a cam that's computed from the latest state-of-art valve event calculations? Choice is up to you, but let me move on here. Now, I don't do this very often, but I am going to state an opinion here. Hopefully it's an opinion based on at least some data that is fairly evident. Now, the group that's circled here, that's the one I'm in. I see as engine builders who are trying to stay on top of things as much as possible, and they are probably more knowledgeable, and I underline probably, and they're willing to take a chance more often. This middle group here is the guys who are fairly sure that old school stuff or stuff that's been done in the past has been pretty much on the money. And lastly, we have these outlier group who are just hoping that if they exaggerate a certain aspect of the cam, i.e. in this instance the lobe centerline angle, they will be able to produce horsepower up in that upper range and therefore hopefully win. But that's all my opinion. Another thing that I came about suspecting was the case was that some of these guys are just using this test as a cheap way to find out whether cam A is better than cam B. Okay, they may have had dual entries, but they are taking advantage of the fact that Eric, my boy, Eric, you are charging too little for this test. Too little. You're being taken advantage of. No, let me rephrase that. It appears to me you're being taken advantage of. Those guys with multiple entries, yeah, sure, they've made multiple entry fees, but boy, I tell you what, it really needs doubling up on at least. Another point that I'd like to bring up here, which was did surprise me a bit. Out of these 23 entries, there was no cams that I would call ringers. That is, cams with exaggerated acceleration ramps on them to get the most area under the curve. Cams that may last 20 minutes. I think that valve float RPM deal had a lot to do with this. Anybody that had a cam that floated the valves before 7,000 RPM was automatically disqualified, and some of these really aggressive cams do take a lot of spring, so that was a good move there, Eric, so that's points in your favor. Now a couple more things that I want to stress here. It's often said that the most important event out of the opening and closing events is the closing point of the intake valve. No, I don't care what books you read. I don't care if there's some of the world's leading authors on this. That is wrong. I've done extensive dyno tests here to show that the most important thing to get right is the lobe centerline angle. It is something like 5 times more influential per degree than the closing point. A saying that I've used a couple of times, and you really should take note of it, and that is on the induction stroke, and remember we've got to get air and fuel in before we need to worry about the exhaust, but this takes care of both aspects. Point that I want to make here is that if you don't get the events in the overlap right and the first part of the intake, there is nothing you can do to redeem that at the end of the intake stroke. That's one of the reasons why lobe center line is more important than intake closing. Oh, where do I think I'm going to finish in this group? I think that the lobe centerline angle that I've chosen, along with a large number of this group, is going to be the winning lobe centerline angles. Now, this brings it down to what we're going to see here is a battle of getting the right durations on the lobes. And at this point, some of those entries are so close to mine that it could be anyone's win. My guess is that whoever's going to win this will be in the group that I'm in. And If I'm wrong, you have my permission to make fun of me. Anyway, that's all I've got to say prior to this cam test. Best of luck, Eric. You're going to be worked off your feet. So, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to donate to Eric's channel. Don't forget there's a super thanks, and so on and so forth. The next video is going to be as Eric is doing the tests, and I'll make comments on what he posts. So, thank you all for watching. I will see you then.